Hello.
Hey, Master.
How are you?
Very good, man. Good to see you.
Thank you. I'm trying to adjust my phone here. That looks kind of straight, doesn't it? I
Yeah, it
think
looks
so.
great, man. You look great, man.
Thank you very much. And I hope you're doing well today.
Very well, Joe. As soon as
Good.
I understood that I was going to interview you again, I am so happy, and especially when I have this on my hands.
Ah, great. Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm so glad, Master. Congratulations. It seems like that you took care of the lockup and do all this album. It's 14 songs. It's a lot of music.
It is, yeah. We had actually about 25 pieces of music to work on, and it was really difficult to, whittle it down to 14 songs. But when you're sequencing, very often you don't really know until the very last moment what songs are going to really go together. But I love the album format. I love that art form of presenting a whole vision as a package together. The songs, how they work together, how different or similar they might be, how they work with the artwork, and for the artists, it lasts for a couple of years. Really, when you release a record and then you go on tour, so it's important for me that the whole thing works together.
It is. Congratulations again. All great songs. It's one of my favorite albums. I have a countdown, every month in my radio show, and Satriani is already on in the 20 position. So it's great to have you on the countdown. It's an honor. And I would like to know why the name of the Elephants on Mars.
Oh, well, again, the thing about the sequencing and the picking of the album title, sometimes that does actually come kind of late in the project. And I didn't really set out to make a themed album from the beginning. I really just wanted to make an album that had what I felt were the best compositions I'd ever written, the best arrangements I'd come up with the team. And I wanted, to push my guitar playing to some levels. So to accomplish new ways of reaching people emotionally with my guitar playing. I wanted some new sounds. And so these were the things that were the themes actually when we started. So by the time we worked on the song that became the title track, we were deep into the album, maybe 2/3 of the way through. And then when one particular song came up as something that was really beginning to shine, that's when I decided to write a science fiction story behind the song to help us get in the mood to finish the song. And, the idea was that in the future, the Earth scientists, they terraform Mars. There are people living on it. It's a beautiful planet, but they don't realize that they also created these gigantic sentient elephants that can communicate with the colonists telepathically. And together they want to make Mars a free planet to break away from Earth. And so, it's a funny thing when you tell a story to the band, but then everybody got very creative because they realized it was a crazy science fiction story and the song based around that. So everyone felt like, well, that's artistic license to play a little crazier and to make it a little bit more cinematic feeling. So it's great when that works out. And then it was obvious that it should be the album title. So
I'm pretty glad with this new album. And for me, it all started with the Shapeshifter, one of the best albums that I ever hear in your collection. I'm very glad that you are working with Kenny Aronoff. I have the pleasure to see this man playing with the Smashing Pumpkins in Chile, and with John Fogerty, Tony Iommi. He got the punch, man. He's one of the best of the best. And you got Bram Beller, he's explosive, I saw her here in Bogota with the Aristocrats, and I have the album with Galactican. So, Master Joe, with that bass, with that drum, you are sure can do beautiful things with your guitar.
Yeah, I am so lucky that I've got these guys to play with. We're so looking forward to hitting the road later on this year. You know, Kenny and I have had a lot of experience playing live together. He was with us for the second Chicken Foot tour, and years ago. And all of 2019, he and I went out with Doug Pinnick, and we did 2 tours with Experience Hendrix. And of course, you mentioned recording the Shape-Shifting album. Yeah, so I'm really so happy, and playing with Kenny. He's just makes a groove and a sound that nobody can touch. And together with Brian Beller, they make it a killer rhythm section.
Brian, the best master.
Yeah, he is so versatile. He can really play with his fingers any way you can imagine, and with a pick, and he gets great tones, always very groovy and aggressive at the same time, which is really great. And since Brian's a really good composer, you know, he has a great way of listening to music and understanding how, you know, his bass line should work within a song. And that's a real plus, you know. And of course, having Ray Thistlethwaite now on keyboards is really a big plus, because he's just an unbelievably talented musician, plays guitar, keyboards, sings like crazy. He's, you know, a great addition to the band.
Yeah, I'm agreed. You can tell that every song has its own identity. It's great, man. Great album. Master Joe, after all these years, 18 albums, do you still getting the same ritual of inspiration than before? Or nowadays it's easier for you to compose? Because when I'm immersed in this album, man, I love it, man. Every song is very special.
Oh, thank you. Well, you know, I think that I still feel like there's not enough time in every day, you know, to spend playing music. It's really, I've got so many things that I'd love to turn into music, so many feelings and ideas, and it's really hard to find the time to do it because you want to do it right. So sometimes things take a lot of attention, and just being able to get out original albums every 2 years is a lot of work. And if there were just a few more hours in every day, I'd be able to put out a little bit more. But I think that, you know, life in general, there's just no end to inspiration. So I always find there's so much I want to write about.
Master, how do you feel of the new state of the guitar? You know, we have now bands like Animals as leaders. We have Pliny. We have Polithia. And you are one of the ones that start the instrumental guitar focused guitar. So how you feel now if you see backwards after all these years? What is happening right now with the guitar?
It's really exciting. I mean, what the younger players are doing, even the generation, you know, younger, you know, than Tosin and Javier and Pliny, they're already, you know, they're starting with Animals as leaders as their first band, and they're taking it even further. So it's pretty exciting in the world of guitar to see young musicians take the instrument and do things with it that have never, ever been done before. It's really exciting. I mean, never in the history of the world have you had guitar players doing things the way they're doing them. And it's, I think it's really exciting. It should be an inspiration to all players, even, you know, rock generation players like myself, you know, because it really should inspire us to just work harder at what we do. We don't have to change what we do, but it's an inspiration to just do better at what you do. And so that's really great. And I think as these bands get a little bit more love from the world, you know, they will develop more as individuals. And I think that's the important part. I think I learned that as a young kid that kind of missed the classic rock era. I could see, you know, Hendrix and Page and Beck developing their instrumental side, and they were allowed, you know, because they got love from the audience. They were the hot thing, they were allowed to develop those sides, especially Jeff Beck was really allowed to career around being that unusual instrumentalist that he is. And but today it's a bit more difficult for the guitar players because the instrument is not heralded like it used to be, and so it's more difficult for them. And it's crazy because what they're doing is even more outrageous than what was done in the 60s, 70s, 80s, you know. So you know, I'm cheering them on.
Wow, me too. On the radio, I try to play them on, especially the new productions in 2021 and 22 albums like yours, the new Steve Vai, the new Black Label Society, Animals as Leaders. There's been, it's a good season for the guitar.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Master, I would like to ask you something. Here in Colombia, we didn't have rock stations, concert, magazine, etc. But even though the people, you know, like and dig and listen the rock, and you've been here in South America, you know that. Yeah. Now, I wrote a book about the blues history to try to teach how all began, you know, the guitar and all that. You as a teacher, what do you think about this?
About the blues history? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
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 Really,
to explain to the kids, to the people, how all this starts, especially in the guitar.
Yeah, it's a strange history. You know, it's exciting on the musical level. It's not exciting. As a matter of fact, it's quite traumatic on the historical level, because what it is, it's the European musicians and the African musicians coming together under horrible circumstances, slavery here in the Americas. And out of that comes this new kind of music. And one really needed the other to arrive at that That's sort right. of that final result that we call blues. And right. It's very different depending on which part of North, Central, or South America you're in, but it is undeniably that clash of cultures that you know, people have a way of, no matter how bad things are, they try to find a good thing to pull out of it. And this sort of self-expression was one of the things that came out of it. There's a lot to understand about how this style of music, which is really a combination of styles, gets picked up by, let's say, the British in the early 60s, and the British try their own version of it, and then they bring it back to the Americas, and right. And so whether it's, you know, hardcore blues like, you know, John Mayall, or if it's like Beatles and Rolling Stones, you know, you can tell they love the music, and they're just doing it as they're young kids, basically. They're just in their late teens and early 20s, and they're part of a youth explosion, and they're making this music, and they're copying Chuck Berry and Muddy Waters. And
that's right.
But they're doing it out of love, you know. And but from there, you get little kids like me who are listening to the radio and watching our older siblings, you know, have parties to the Rolling Stones, and I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking, that's the blues, you know. Mick Jagger singing the blues is the blues. Jimi Hendrix playing Red House is the blues. As I get older, I go, oh, okay, Jimi Hendrix loved Buddy Guy, and Buddy Guy learned from other masters. And so it does take some effort for musicians to investigate the history and the influences of their heroes, to understand, like with me, knowing that Buddy Guy was a really big influence on Jimi Hendrix, and that's why Jimmy played the way he did, out of love and respect for Buddy Guy. And then who did Buddy Guy play with, and so on and so forth. You know, it's a great history, and you learn so much as a player. I think it should make every modern guitar player feel excited about building upon what other guitar players before them have laid down, because that's really what we do. We borrow little things from each other,
That's right.
And then kind of make a new recipe out of it, and we, hopefully create an original dish.
Wow, Master, thanks a lot for that answer. That gave me courage to keep doing it, and keep trying to explain to the kids and the old guys how this is all about, I'm very glad for your answer. And my next question, it has to be strictly with the new status of the record industry. I'm glad that nowadays we don't have fashions, like, hey, we got the 80s, the metal, and then the 90s, the alternative. No, now we don't have fashions. Everything is open. If a kid wants to play the blues, can do it. Or either ways, an old guy that used to play blues, but he got banned because of fashion, he can nowadays pick up the guitar again and play the blues. So I think it's a good thing right now. The music business changed, and everybody have the opportunity to play whatever they want.
Yeah, that's a very good observation. I think the one of the side effects of the internet was bringing every style to every corner of the world all the time, 24 hours a day.
That's right.
And that broke down kind of like what you were mentioning about styles used to be more rigid, decades ago, where the whole society would go rock and roll or disco or punk or new wave or heavy metal. Now It's all ones, and there's a couple of generations of people now who work off of playlists that consist of every style of music, a couple of songs from just about every style, and they don't mind listening to music that's 30, 40 years old, mixed with music that was just created around the block by somebody and posted on SoundCloud. So that, from a creative point of view, that's really great development. I think that artists will always struggle with getting compensated properly, because if we don't get paid for what we do, won't be able to stay home and make music. We'll have to go out and get a full-time job and
right.
So be able to make music anymore. So there's always this struggle. It's always a little different. Every age, it seems that there are forces at work to make profits off of artists without giving them fair compensation. And it eventually erodes the ability of the artist to work. And so whether it's music or painting, these things, artists need to continually fight to get paid more, basically, so that they can continue to excel at their craft. And so that's, the downside of the internet is suddenly it's a crazy free market. And but one of the things that happened was that ticket prices just skyrocketed. When you go to do a concert now, you're paying the price for free music on the internet. That's basically
right.
And so that forces artists to go on tour, which is a huge expense. Very few of them really make money. Just a couple, a handful of people make millions of dollars on tour, and everybody else is just trying not to lose a fortune every time they go out. So it hasn't been a good solution to charge fans more for tickets to offset the fact that the music is pretty much free. So I think ticket prices should get lower, and the streaming services need to pay artists more per play, so that things can get equaled out between the artist and the fan, because they need each other.
You're totally right. I hope back in the 2032, the things are going to be that way, Master. It's equal, it's even, it's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, because I know you're pretty busy, I would like to talk about this album. I have highlights of favorite songs like Sahara. For me, it's like an expedition, Master. It's a great song. I love it.
Thank you so much. That was written very quickly because I was overwhelmed with this feeling about this character who was feeling lost, inside, and he also found himself in a decaying urban landscape at night, and he was lost physically as well. And he was just sort of crying out, looking for some sort of help. And I actually wrote it as a vocal song, and I wrote all the lyrics. I sent the demo that had most of the original guitars that are on the album, and sent it off to the band and to Ray. And I thought this would be a great song for Ray to sing. And somehow it never really got done. And I kind of thought, well, I'll do that for another album. And then my producer, after a few weeks, said, you know, we should really do that song, but maybe there's a chance it could be an instrumental. So I had to, you know, erase the part where I thought Ray was going to be singing. I had to come up with a new melody that made sense as an instrumental melody, because they're so different, you know. But in the end, it was really a great experience, because I thought the song got so much better as an instrumental, and I was able to really make it a beautiful cinematic, emotional.
Totally. Yeah, you can feel that. I love it. The video, I'm not really into videos, but I love that video. I put it on the Twitter, on Instagram to my listeners to see, because I love it. It's pretty trippy, pretty futuristic. I love it.
Yeah, it was really something. My son was able to combine the idea that the song is the opening song for an album called The Elephants of Mars. So he wanted to create something that was really red and red-orange to suggest that, and to suggest a journey perhaps going to Mars, but didn't want to get too full with it. Made it really trippy, very emotional, and of course gorgeous to look at. You know, it's just really beautiful.
There is a song named 104 Street, New York. It's pretty jazzy. I love that song, Master.
Thank you. That's actually an address in New York City where my father was born and raised, and First and Second Avenues in an area of Manhattan called Spanish Harlem. And as a little kid in the 60s, I was there every Sunday visiting my relatives, playing with my cousins out on the street. And, you know, it was a wonderland. But in the 70s, of course, I became a young musician, started going to concerts and hanging out in clubs and playing. And I realized this is a really crazy, dangerous city. It's not the I thought it was in the 60s. This is serious business. And so that's the kind of music, like right in the middle of that decade, that we would play if it was 4:30 in the morning. We just finished playing 6 sets of music, and we're just chilling on stage after they close the doors. And so I wanted to capture that vibe of musicians just hanging out, you know, chilling, playing some really cool music.
Great song, Master. Pumping is like a tribute to Jeff Beck. I can feel something like that.
Yes, yeah. You know, I spent so much time playing with Jeff Beck records when I was a young kid. I was fascinated by the way that he would play so little, because, you know, I'd listen to Hendrix, who created a whole vision with his guitars, and Jimmy Page, totally different than Jimi Hendrix, but at the same time, there was always a lot of rhythm guitars and harmonized parts, and, you know, very sort of, it was sort of an exotic Celtic kind of thing that Led Zeppelin had. Because I grew up in New York, stuff that would come from England sounded sort of exotic in a way. And then comes Jeff Beck, and he's got these early records where there's no rhythm guitar. And he plays a couple of notes, and then he doesn't play anything. And then he comes in. And I thought, this is so different from his contemporaries. Now, you know, he grew up with Jimmy Page. They used to hang out together as kids. So I was fascinated by, like, what makes these two guys so different in how they play. And so I learned a lot from the power of that economy, you know, how you let the band really pump, you know, behind you, and you phrase, you know, you don't try to take up all the real estate. You just pick your phrases and your spots, and you play something super meaningful. And so, yeah, that's a fun song. That's a trippy song without a doubt.
Another special song, Master, is Sailing the Seas of Ganymede. I read the book from Ganymedes when I was a kid, and I was like, wow, Joe, have a connection with that too. It's like a guitar extravaganza, master. Great song, though.
Yeah, thank you. You know, it's written a very funny song because it was written about my experiences playing on the Jimmy Fallon show and having to rehearse with the Roots in the teeniest room you can imagine. And I always thought it was so funny because they're like one of the biggest, best sounding bands ever. And Questlove is just an amazing musician and personality. But they're all sort of stuffed into this teeny room before barely room to stand with your guitar as you go over what you're going to be playing that night. And so I imagined like, where should Questlove really be? And I thought, well, he should be in command of his own ship, gigantic old sailing ship. And he's on some exotic sea and the waves are hundreds of feet tall and he's on a crazy adventure. And then I thought, well, it can't be on Earth. It's got to be something even crazier. So I was thinking about the scientists talking how they think maybe there might be underground seas and oceans on the moon of Ganymede, the Ganymede, the moon of Jupiter. And I thought, well, that's where he should be. So I'll put him there and that'll be my fantasy. And I just have to create the soundtrack around that. So that's why it's got that. And it seems like some disjointed things where it's really crazy. And then all of a sudden the music goes halftime and it sounds like big ocean waves, you know. We had so much fun doing that. It was really, really great.
Wow, great history, master. The hit album, it seems to be faceless. People love it, you know. You grab us, you know, with those slow songs, like Always With Me, Always With You. Since that times you grab our hearts, master.
I'm so happy that people love that side of my compositions, and it's something that I probably have to spend the most amount of time on because it's so difficult to wrestle an electric guitar down to where it can play a ballad beautifully. It's really hard. The electric guitar is really good at being crazy and messy and the rebel in the room, you know. It because it's very percussive and harmonic and melodic, and it's electronic, so it can just sound like anything. But when you try to, really get it to convey some beautiful message, heartfelt message, it really takes a lot of wrangling. You really got to try to control it. And I just love it when you get those moments where you think that it's under control, but you're this far away from losing control. And I love that sound. I love the feeling when you can capture that in a song, especially if it's a song about feeling faceless, like people don't see the real you. And so, we that song started out really short, and the more we worked on it, the more we liked it, and it got longer and longer.
It seems like you have enough time to craft all that on the studio. How long did it take you to do the recording for this album, Master?
Well, we had all the time in the world. It was unfortunate, that the pandemic existed, and it's a human tragedy. But there we're musicians. Our job is to make music for people. So I just thought I have to do my thing, and if there was any, benefit to being sidelined like that at home, it was that suddenly there was no schedule. It wasn't 8 hours, per day for 10 days. And that's all you get to make an album. I wasn't, when I'm at home, I'm not paying home prices. You go to a studio and you're paying thousands of dollars an hour for, bringing in 4 or 5 musicians, producer, engineer, assistant engineer. You're renting equipment. People are staying in hotel rooms. It's very expensive, so in a few weeks you can blow a record budget. At home, we could spend almost a year very casually, recording and writing. And I could send files to people in Australia, Los Angeles, and say, take your time, give me 6 versions of what you think would work, and then let's talk about it and see which ones we all like. And it really did help, I think, turn each song into its best version. Very often when you make a record very quickly, you want the version that fit within the time you had to make it. It may not be the best version. That's why when you go on tour, you finally, like I think about the song Cool Number 9 from my 95 album. The version that's on the album was not actually the definitive version. The definitive version was from Live in San Francisco, which was the live version. It just took us a tour to figure out really how to play the song. And in this particular case, we had that time because everybody was in lockdown, and we had that time to really reflect on our individual performances and also on the arranging and finally the mixing, because we weren't rushed.
Master, thanks a lot for your time. I'm aware that you have to keep going with some other interviews. What do you want to tell to the listeners in Radionica here in Colombia, South America? What is your message in right now, May 2022?
Oh, yes. It's been a long time since we've been able to celebrate music together. But
7 years, Master.
Yes. I really hope we get there soon. I'm hoping 2023 will bring us to Colombia, to South America. And let's all hope and pray that happens.
Master, thanks a lot again. You are a great man. I'm going to send you the book. Maybe I'm going to use a little of your words that you said about it, because I trip out about your explanation about blues and all that. Thanks a lot, Master. You are the best, and keep rocking.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care. All right.